seen it on the 11 o'clock news. The video camera takes us right to the scene of the accident. Sometimes it is so graphic, we have to look away. And sometimes we can't look away. Accident with injuries comprise a big percentage of the calls responded to by the largest all-volunteer emergency medical service in the country. The 11 rescue squads serving Virginia Beach, which responded to over 23,000 calls last year. Nearly a third of those calls were answered by Rescue 14, the Virginia Beach Volunteer Rescue Squad. The Virginia Beach Rescue Squad is headquartered in its own facility on 20th Street, near Baltic Avenue, in one of the busiest areas of the city. The facility houses a fully equipped squad truck and 5 advanced life support ambulances, and is a second home to the 78 volunteer squad members who rotate duty here in 12-hour shifts, so the station can be manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a unique mix of dedicated people.
I am in sales management with the division of Sara Lee Corporation.
I'm a counselor at one of the psychiatric hospitals in the area.
I have a vending business on the boardwalk.
I'm a housewife.
I'm a mom. I have 4 children, and I also do the office management for my husband's law firm in Norfolk.
But ask this diverse group of people when they first became interested in the rescue squad.
When you're growing up and you see sirens and you see ambulances, and you always wonder where they're going.
I was first exposed to it when I was a child. My grandfather was one of the captains of the Richmond Rescue Squad. And then I kind of grew up seeing him rush to calls and come back and tell us these stories, and I was always interested in that.
I've always been fascinated with the rescue squad and the fire department since I was a little boy. I used to have my father take me up to the fire station and see the ambulance and so forth. I guess every child has a little bit of fascination.
It is December 1951. Attorney Peter Holland witnesses an automobile accident that leaves one pedestrian with a serious hip injury. His efforts to summon an ambulance are met with frustration and result in the formation of a group dedicated to the creation of an active and responsive all-volunteer ambulance service. In the months that followed, research is done and decisions are made. The first official meeting is held in February 1952. And in the first 25 days of May, members respond to 20 calls. In 1953, the squad answers 684 calls. Last year, Rescue 14 alone answered more than 6,000 calls. If you live in Virginia Beach and dial 911, the call will come here, the Communications Center, located at the Municipal Center Complex. Communications Officer Patricia Johnson explains how the call is handled.
The call taker who receives the call will ask for the location. If we're talking an accident, say it's at Virginia Beach Boulevard and Independence, she'll type in that intersection. She'll zone it and send it up to the dispatcher stating it is an accident.
What does that mean, zone it?
It'll tell her, the computer will take those 2 streets and tell her which rescue squad needs to go, which police officer, which fire truck, and then the call taker will send it up to the dispatcher. She will start the ambulance and the fire truck if needed. And while she's doing that, the complaint taker will keep you on the phone trying to get information as to how many people might be injured, how bad they're injured, if they're still trapped in the vehicle, that type of information.
You see the lights, you see the sirens. That ambulance is probably going to save somebody's life. Well, maybe they're just going to a broken foot. Maybe they're going to somebody with stomach pain. But if I can do this, and I think most people would tell you this if they were honest, if I can do this, literally anybody can do this. It's not that hard to do. The training makes it so that you almost look forward to going to calls that most people would think are challenging.
Keith Eubank is a paramedic and a 12-year veteran of the Virginia Beach Rescue Squad. He admits the paramedic training was the toughest course he'd ever taken.
Actual written test was probably the hardest test I've ever taken through 4 years of college even. The practical test was the most nerve-wracking thing I have ever done.
Hard work and training pay off.
Everything that you learn there you use. And again, it would be impossible to do what is done on the street, both as an EMT level, or if you're a cardiac technician, or in my case, a paramedic level. You have to go to that to learn to do what we do on the street. Paramedic skills that you learn, as an example, the advanced life support skills, you don't use them every day. And that's why it's so important to go to drill meetings or continuing education, which is set up by the city. It's sort of like you learn to ride a bike and you can always know how to ride a bike. But when you're starting an IV, or when you're trying to get somebody out of a car, or when you're working a situation, you have to think clearly. What you don't want to have to do is to sit down and think, what am I going to do now? Sometimes you have to do that, but what works better is if you just react.
Denise Llewellyn is a young housewife who joined the squad just 8 months ago.
Once you apply, they put you through emergency medical services classes, and then you go through an emergency medical tech, and then you're qualified to be a second person on an ambulance. There are usually 2 people on an ambulance. And then from there you can go on if you want to, but that's the basic level to be on the rescue squad, and that's where I am.
It is July 29th, a pretty summer Sunday in Virginia Beach. It's been a blessedly slow day. The night shift signs on and adjourns to the Beach Bully restaurant for supper. Courtney Dyer is a 9-year veteran who was teamed with rookie John Stein. The call comes through at 7:25 p.m., an accident with injuries.
Rescue 14, Zone 1-4, reported accident with injuries, pedestrian unconscious, 2404 Arctic Avenue, 2404 Arctic Avenue, map coordinate M. Mary 6, case 656, priority 1, 1922.
25, we're just around from the corner from that. We'll go ahead and take that call.
10-4825, case number 656, 656. We have a pedestrian unconscious, appears to have massive head injuries.
You pull up on a scene, you got to try to expect the unexpected, and it never happens that way. Whatever you're expecting, it's the opposite.
Donald Barksdale is struck while riding a bicycle.
Let's roll, wait, let's roll it. Let's roll in and go under it. Okay, great, rolling back. Move them up. So anybody got any idea where the impact was, where it hit? Any witnesses? Very slow. Buddy, let's go up. We got to get in there. Let's go up. Ready?
Five crew members and 2 paramedics treat the seriously injured Barksdale. He is loaded into the ambulance and rushed to Virginia Beach General Hospital. A 12-member trauma team works to save the man. At 7:59 p.m., Donald Barksdale is pronounced dead. The cause of death is listed as massive trauma.
Dealing with a situation like that, to me, comes, I think, a little bit harder than other people. After dealing with somebody that you're trying to save, trying to help, and they don't survive, to me, that preys on my mind a little bit more than a lot of people. A lot of people can shut it out, and I can too, to a certain extent. But at the end of the night, when everything's all over and done with, it comes back to me, and I start thinking about, you know, the person as a person, rather than, you know, just trying to shut it out to where you can. It's an easier way to deal with it, and it bothers me. You have to learn to tell yourself that you really tried to help this person and you did all you could, and that you did your best.
My thoughts are, if this person lives, I didn't save them. If this person dies, I didn't kill them. I did the best I could do for them wherever we were, whether we were busy or not busy. You're just there at that call with this person, and because it can be so intense, you don't really have to try to block that other stuff out. I've never had a problem with that because you're keyed in on what's going now.
I've been on some terrible calls with respect to really severe trauma and so on, and although those are very sad and very dramatic often, I have thought, well, I'm sorry that had to happen, but thank God for us. We went in there and fixed it up as best as anybody in the world could have done.
Julie McKinley is an emergency medical technician and a 12-year veteran of the squad.
I have often said to a young person in particular who might have been on drugs or whatever, I have said to them, I know you don't want to tell this to a police officer, but I need to know because I am caring for your health. Tell me if you've taken anything, and they'll tell me. It's interesting the confidences that people will make for us. I suppose it's the uniform. I suppose we are asking for trust, and people instinctively do trust. I anticipated that the hardest calls would, for me, as a mother of 4 children, would be children's calls. And to a certain extent, because I know that in dealing with children, you have less time. They're going to bleed out quicker. They're going to die from not breathing quicker. So there's a real sense of urgency in dealing with children. But I have found that I don't carry around with me those bad calls as much as I do really with elderly people. I have been so impressed about our aging society since I've come on the rescue squad, and really how so alone so many older people are, and how couples depend on each other, and if one of them falls ill, how desperate the other one is. I think those situations touch me almost more than the ones that I would have anticipated.
Being able to help people, especially the people that are in your community, and a lot of the people that you've grown up with or lived with, the pleasure and satisfaction is immeasurable.
David Whitley is a former captain of the squad and is a paramedic.
There's a big commitment with the family. A lot of nights away from home, not only with the duties that you pull, but also the training classes and the continuing education that you have to go through. It's hard to plan an evening or a weekend because you never know when your page is going to go off, even when you're not on duty. I've left my wife at the dinner table with some cold dinners many a night.
I don't think that the general public knows the sacrifice. They are willing to perceive the sacrifice that the rescue workers themselves give to the community. They don't understand the sacrifice and the understanding that those workers' families have to have. There is a degree of exposure. We have communicable diseases now. We're going, very fast down busy interstates in an ambulance. It's sometimes it's kind of a dangerous undertaking, and your family has to make that leap in faith for you, that you will take care of yourself, that your systems are in place within your squad and within the city so that you won't be injured. They have to make that leap in faith just as you do, and it's, I think, very difficult often. I think they ought to be commended for standing behind us.
My husband's in the medical field, and he understands what drives someone to want to do this, but it is tough on him to come home from work and where he's worked a full day and then has to watch all the children that night, and that's the arsenic hour, they call it, when I leave, when everyone needs to be fed, everyone needs to have baths, they need to be put in bed, and I appreciate him doing that. For me, it's my outlet to go out and do this. I feel like I'm contributing something.
The public is not aware that we are volunteers, and we try and educate them every year along with our request for donations through our fund drive in August. We try and also educate them as to the fact that we are volunteers and that we rely on them for our support, both in membership and financially. I think the importance of some of the organizations that have supported us, one being the foundation, the Rescue Squad Foundation, one being Nick Nicholson, the memorial contributions, our fund drive, and the community support. One of our biggest supporters, I think, is Virginia Beach General Hospital and their parent company, Tidewater Healthcare. They've been very supportive in assisting the volunteer EMS system in Virginia Beach. They're almost like a partnership with us in a sense that we're turning over our patients to them, and there's a lot of communications that goes on in a very short period of time often. There's a lot of stress in the emergency room at times, and I think we maintain a very good working relationship with the ER staff at Virginia Beach General. So they're a key part of our organization.
It surprised me in one fashion because I anticipated blood and guts and gore constantly, when in fact I've learned that probably less than 10% of what we do involves serious trauma. Many of the calls are assisting somebody back into bed, patching up a cut finger, broken leg, not necessarily life-threatening injuries. So it's really rendering assistance to people in a time of need, but not always in a very critical time of need.
Rick Shea is a 14-year veteran and an advertising executive.
I think if you look deep down inside yourself, there's something that says you want to make the community a better place. And it's that spirit of giving something back to the community that really keeps you going. When you get down, you need something to pick you up. You come on duty, run a few rescue calls, then you find out really why you're there.
We got to the scene and a lady was laying outside of her car.
With 1.5 years of experience, Lynn Hilgeman is still considered a rookie.
My ALS provider that's Norval right there. I looked to him for direction, and he was doing the basic patient assessment, and I was doing a secondary survey and found that she had a possible femur fracture. So we're sizing the hair, a hair splint. That's what we use for the femur fractures. Then he discovered there was a possible pelvis, so we stop and reevaluate what we're doing. We got her mask trousers in case she was going into shock. Blood pressure was steady, so we didn't inflate mask. What we're doing there, we're trying to put the hair on over the mask trousers. We've got somebody at her head, making sure she's breathing okay. I think there was 2 cars involved. She was the only major injury. I don't even think she knew what hit her. She had been drinking. She had just left a bar, and the bar was right on the corner too, so she wasn't far, and the whole time she's screaming, "I want my baby," and her baby, so of course we searched the car thinking there might be an infant involved. There wasn't a child. She was just intoxicated, which at one point it was good for her because that femur fracture, pelvis fracture would have really hurt. And at the time she was grabbing at her leg, but she wasn't sure why she was grabbing at her leg. So she was cooperative in that sense, that she let us move her around a little bit, but at the same time we couldn't get her name out of her. We didn't get where she lived. She just wasn't hearing us. Our ALS, he got back in the unit and got a line ready, which is the IV. Got it ready for her, and which left me to load the patient, to get everybody up and let's go. He at this time right here is waiting in the unit for us. So the 3 of us are thank goodness for the police, because sometimes it gets so heavy, and that really helps. Time's a factor because her blood pressure could bottom out any time. With a pelvis fracture, you could bleed to death internally in a matter of minutes. So as soon as, like I said, as soon as he felt that there's a possible pelvis, and where I was concerned with a femur, we just changed the whole route, and boom, he was back in the unit starting the line, because if her blood pressure had bottomed out, the IV would help stabilize her blood pressure till we got to the hospital. There's a lot of process to get her in because we want to be careful of a C-spine injury, that we have a collar on, we have a CID, we have a backboard, and then she's tied to the backboard, and then she's tied to the stretcher, and then she's locked in the stretcher in the ambulance, so she's not going anywhere. She's very stable. Why do I keep coming back? It's a drive within myself that seems to be that this is something I need to do, something I want to do. Like I said, sometimes I wonder if it's genetic, because I was raised into it. It's for the new experience. There's always something new to learn, and I want to know more. So I hope to get more involved. I'd like to go on and further my education so I could do more. But right now, it's the exposure. I want to see what's going to come up next.
From the rookies to the veterans, this is a squad that is proud of its heritage.
When I came to this rescue squad, there was already a history here of people you heard about. I don't even know them, but I've heard of Jake Bramer as an example. I've never met the man, but I can tell you some of the things he did from people that have told me about it. And then having gone through the situations you go through on the street and in school, the different classes you go to, and you help each other. You come in here and you grill those different practical stations. It'd be awful hard not to develop some pretty close ties with at least a handful of people, but you develop a relationship with pretty much the 70 people that are here.
We have really realized what the volunteer system is all about. It's a spirit of community. It incorporates a sense of adventure, but we realize that we're an integral part of the community, and the people that we serve have a tremendous amount of respect and gratitude for the squad, and in part that's what keeps us going.
When I first became a member, I really didn't anticipate ever becoming captain. Matter of fact, just being a member was, I felt was great enough. You know, I really felt a strong community involvement, plus I felt privileged to be a member of this squad.
Dan Kiley is a second-generation captain.
This squad has so much pride and tradition from, you know, back when the squad first formed, and the individuals and the quality of people we've had here throughout the years has helped carry that on. The trophies you see represent a lot of hours of training, competition, and when people look at that, I mean, there is a lot of pride in this station.
We have a member, Pat Cavanaugh, a life member of the squad, and he's always hard, well, not hard on the rookies, but he'll let you know you're a new member. But it's somewhat good in a way, you know, with any, I think with any organization you're going to have that. But he does it in a way where it makes you want to go that little bit of an extra mile to try and, you know, get over that boundary of being that rookie. But I think you're a rookie. I've been a rookie for the last year and a half, and hopefully, you know, in the next year or so I'll be slowly climbing my way out of that classification.
The senior member who gives the rookies such a hard time is Pat Cavanaugh, a 17-year veteran of rescue squad work.
This is not a fly-by-night operation. We want you to help, but we have some rules and guidelines. We want you to volunteer, but at this particular squad, we're going to need a little bit of you. And if we tell them that right up front, let them sit back and adjust, see if this is really what they want to do, because it is a commitment.
The 78 squad members and their families are among the most generous citizens of Virginia Beach. They all say they are just trying to give something back to their community. It doesn't get any easier.
There's a thing known as the golden hour, where a traumatized patient, the theory is, from the moment of the trauma, he has an hour of a window there, that if he can be in surgery or at least in a hospital receiving more advanced care than we can give him on the street, that his chances of survival are greatly enhanced. When you can pull that off and be only on the scene, so a lot of times our goal is, our goal all the time, especially in traumas, is to hurry up. When you can pull that off, and on a bad wreck, as an example, be only on the scene 20 minutes or less and be at the hospital in 5 minutes, to know you can do that and what all had to go in to pull that off, to where people are working together. Sometimes you sit back and what you did, you say, how did we do that in 20 minutes? It is a good feeling when you especially with something you can really make a difference in. What keeps me coming back? My kids keep me coming back here because they love the rescue squad and what goes on here. They've learned a lot. And what really keeps me coming back is just having my hands in the chance that sometimes, someday, you get to really affect the outcome of somebody's life.
1494, be advised, the call came from 2008 Atlantic Avenue, 2008 Atlantic Avenue. Complainant said they saw someone. 1425.
1097, Beach General.
1425, I have a gun. Several units dispatched to 1425.
1425, dispatch.
1425.
You just talk to us, we'll try to clear in a minute or so. We just have to unload the patient, and my partner has to get here from driving this out.
Go ahead and start 17. 3179, Virginia Beach Boulevard. Their point is 8 Henry 6. Case number is 508. The female semi-conscious. She's taken a combination of alcohol and Valium, also has psychiatric problems. 1953 hours. Rescue 14, second ambulance call.